Marc, thank you so much for coming by and talking to us here at LSI Europe.
It's my pleasure. Happy to be here.
Tell me a little bit about Kurve Therapeutics.
Kurve Therapeutics is pioneering neurodegenerative disease states that really are unmet entirely. There are a few things that will help relieve symptoms and maybe slow the progression for a short period of time, but the answer hasn't been found yet. And we have some affinity with it. Everybody really does. I have a father who had Alzheimer's, and all 5 of his sisters did. My younger brother Jim died of ALS. So we have, but my story is similar to everybody else's. Everybody knows somebody like that. But the idea that you can actually, live for 10 years with Alzheimer's and be on your own to do it is not something anybody can do. And what we've been doing with the technology that we built in the platform is to find a way to actually treat the underlying cause of why these things even happen. And the pathologies, interestingly enough, are very similar. They, what you get, the reasons why you get Parkinson's is very similar to the reasons why you get Alzheimer's. It just depends on who you are, what your body is, and what your gene history is. So there's just a lot of similarities, and what we want to be able to do is get the right drugs into the brain to the right place. And the brain is just inaccessible until, we came along. There's a lot of work being done on infusions. They seem to really struggle. We're 3,000% better than an infusion right now. So we have tremendous dose flexibility, and we just want to be the device of choice for all of the things that Big Pharma wants to do, but we also want to do our own products, right? Our own projects where we have our own drug formulations in there. But there's too much to do. There's too many patients that are suffering right now, and we can't do it all. So we need partners to go and do the ones that we're not going to do, and we simply cannot do. So that was probably a lot longer an answer than you were looking for.
No, that's perfect. What I do want to understand a bit better maybe is you have a drug delivery device. Explain the technology. How is it better than infusion? How is it crossing that blood-brain barrier that a lot of current medicine has struggled to do?
It's a really fascinating topic, and it's a good question. Crossing the blood-brain barrier is done through the blood, and that's part of their problem, is they're locked into the circulatory system. What we're doing is more neuronal pathways. So we get to the olfactory region of the nasal cavity where it has direct access to the brain. So instead of being in the blood and trapped there, and you're hoping to have a mechanism that will take that drug into the brain, we're not enslaved to that. We're going around the neuron and into the brain, and so we're not actually in the blood or in the cell initially. So what that does is gives us a lot of flexibility to put more drug in there. And at this point, we've just filed some new intellectual property, which allows us to then, once the drug is in the brain, to move it where it's needed. So we have a press release that will be coming out shortly about our success treating glioblastoma, which is a brain tumor.
Exciting.
And we shrunk the tumor by 50% using stem cells, which people have said, you'll never get a stem cell in the brain, nose to brain, because it's too big a molecule. It's just it's a huge cell. And I was like, well, have you ever done anything into the brain? He said, no, we've never succeeded at it. So why do you think you get an opinion? And we did. We got it in the brain. So, we have to stop saying these things can't be done and start looking at ways to do it. But if the brain tumor's in the frontal lobe, we can get that. And we did, right?
Wow.
But if it's in the back of the brain, what are we going to do? We're only putting it right here. So we've developed new technology that's going to put it right there, but it's not going to absorb. It's not going to get in the blood. It's not going to get in the cell. And we're going to move it, and then it will. So we can target in the brain where the drug will be released. And it's really exciting, and we want to be able to really bring that out, because it opens the doors to so many more things. I have a sister-in-law who passed from myotonic dystrophy. Not that this is a death interview, but these are just the
personal. This is very personal.
It's it's the story of how neurodegenerative diseases work and what misery it causes. But her problem is center mass in the brain. So what we would have to do is move it to the side and then drag it through halfway and then drop it. And we feel that we could do that now. The way it's done now is they drill a hole in your skull and they stick something in there and they run the drug
Directly.
directly through your brain. So you got a hole in your skull that you're going to have drugs delivered to for a foreseeable future. We're far less invasive than that. And if you're going to get a choice, you're the patient. Well, you can use this machine for a minute, or we can drill a hole in your skull. Which one are you going to choose?
That's a really tough choice there. The personal element of neurodegenerative diseases, as you said, a lot of us have family members who have lived with it, who have even passed from it, unfortunately. It's great. There's a great unmet need, clearly. Talk to me about the market opportunity, though, to help these people. What does it look like? How many people can be helped with your technology?
Yeah, that's a tough number to come up with, because if you look at all the things we're doing, we're working with the Army on PTSD, so how many is that? Working with the Army on traumatic brain injury, how many is that? And then there's Parkinson's, Alzheimer's. The market opportunity is big because none of these things have any therapies at all. And one of the reasons why we love the Reg A Plus that we're doing here is because we get to talk to and receive investment from those family members, the people that have a stake in this therapy. So we're able to form a community of people who can get involved. We're a venture capitalist, we'll give you 10 million and that's great. But somebody can get involved with us for $600.
Yeah.
And $285 billion in lost productivity every year from caregivers in Alzheimer's alone. So if you could have these Alzheimer's patients who didn't need full-time care, they could age in place, which is what we're hoping to provide, then those productivity dollars are back into the economy. And there's just those caregivers who are giving up all of this productivity and the money that they could be earning if they weren't doing this, could become involved in our community. And they say, well, all right, let's put $1,000 into this, and we'll be a part of the solution to what my grandmother had to go through, what my wife went through. There's always a family member. Everybody knows someone. So, what we really want to do is wrap our arms around everybody, bring them all in, and then we can, march forward together to provide some real solutions.
Regulation A plus, or Reg A, it's a pretty innovative financing model for our industry. You're kind of a pioneer, really, one of the few companies that I'm unaware of that's actually pursuing it. When did you guys start your Reg A? How's it going? And what are you going to do with those funds?
Well, we're off to a little bit of a rocky start, but Scott's put together a really, really good team, and everybody that's involved in it has been tremendous. Rialto Markets is good. They're the broker-dealer. Assurance Dimensions did a fantastic job, and CoreConnex has a really good technology. But Kurve was sort of built on a grassroots investor level. Where we were trying to get the company off the ground had just had a serious bubble burst, and all the investors were walking around with their hands in their pockets, right? So we had to figure out another way to get it off the ground, and we did, right? We raised a lot of money through grassroots investment. And Regulation A Plus is just that writ large, and we want to communicate and actually be a part of getting everybody involved in it. And we are happy to be pioneers in finding out how viable this is, because we find it very exciting. There's a lot of, we still want private equity, we still want venture capital, because what we want to do is going to cost a boatload of money. But what we can do with Regulation A Plus is round everybody into it. And we're happy to do that, and we're hoping that's what actually happens. The key to it, though, and what we've learned over the last 6 months is investor acquisition team is crucial, right? So we're focusing a lot on those ad buys and working with that team, and capital raise agencies who we're using right now. We're very confident they're going to do a good job. But everybody else is going to be necessary only if the IA piece succeeds, right? Rialto has no money to take in unless they get people to invest now. So that's what we're here to do. And we've had 9 meetings with venture capital and private equity here, and we are really pushing through the Reg A Plus. So there's everybody gets to be involved in the way this is set up. So Reg A doesn't prohibit you from doing anything else, but it allows you to get other investment in that is less dilutive.
Your technology is being looked at for numerous neurodegenerative conditions, it sounds like. What is Regulation A fundraising going to help you do in the near term?
Well, we've done phase 1, phase 2, and phase 2B with Alzheimer's using insulin. We're going to reformulate that because it's not conducive to nasal drug delivery. It's meant to be a sub-Q injection, right? But we're one clinical trial from actually launching into the commercial marketplace. And so we're looking to raise enough money through the Reg A to run that last clinical trial. And that's a 18-month study. So you get the prep, the study, and then the application for approval. But we have one of the exciting things about some of the work that we're doing is it all ties together, right? So we're working with mild cognitive impairment. And that's what Alzheimer's people have. But there's a lot of flavors of mild cognitive impairment. So you have mild cognitive impairment because you have multiple sclerosis, and you will get it because you have diabetes or HIV. And we have a project running with a university in the southern part of the United States that is targeting aging African Americans who seem to develop it earlier. So we wanted to be able to help that community out. So we send them a bunch of devices. But the whole thing is it's the same drug, same dose, same device in all of these MCI studies. So there's an opportunity to, do one study, and now we have access to all of these subgroups, and we should be able to help all of them as well. But if you have HIV and your HIV is being controlled with the drugs they did for that, but your cognitive decline is still happening, your quality of life is still terrible. And everybody with Parkinson's and ALS and all that have a lousy quality of life. We have to be able to do, have the opportunity to try and restore that.
Absolutely.
And as a side note, another part of our personal journey here is when my father had it, we were working with Johns Hopkins on a couple of studies which have been published and peer reviewed. And so I was introduced to the neurologist there, and I got my father to see him. And he says, yes, you have mild cognitive impairment from Alzheimer's. We're going to put you on this drug, and you can use your son's machine. And
Wow.
9 months later, he went back in for a follow-up, and he said, if you walked in here today for the first time, I would not diagnose you as MCI. So the symptoms that he had completely resolved. And now we don't know how long that would have lasted because he ended up having a heart attack. And he also passed. But the great thing was he stayed alive for 6 years after his MCI diagnosis with no symptoms. And that's how he aged in place, and that's how he did not have to decline and not recognize his children or his grandchildren, and be able to be fully engaged in his entire life until the end. So, and I think that's what everybody wants, right?
Sure.
You want to be able to stay involved with all of your people, recognize who they are, and have a better quality of life. And we want to be the ones who provide that. And we'd also like to make some money at it.
To be able to help someone so close to you with your own technology is a truly powerful story to hear about. I want to switch topics to commercialization. Where are you guys looking to launch first?
You mean globally or geographically?
Geographically,
it's going
yes.
to be the United States. So, we're here. We're going to manufacture in the United States. We have a really good high volume manufacturing VP of manufacturing. He's internationally known consultant. We're going to set up high volume in the United States. We should have cost parity, if everything goes right, with Southeast Asia, so we don't have to outsource to cheap labor. We can do it here, we can do it in the U.S. But the great thing that we're seeing, because we want to be a global company, is we want to set up manufacturing cells, in several parts of the U.S. But then we want to put one in the Middle East and in Ireland and somewhere, and see, where is it best to manufacture for the groups that we're treating. Right, so Southeast Asia is open to us as well. There's so many people there. We could set up a manufacturing facility, India, China, Singapore, Australia, somewhere over there. That is better for serving those geographic areas. But since the manufacturing, that Herman Planck is his name, very, very good guy, is clonable and scalable. So when we set it up in Seattle, we're going to then be able to take that same model and set it up in North Carolina. or in Arizona somewhere, right? And then we can branch that out. Eventually, we'll become completely vertically integrated in our manufacturing, where we're making our own boxes and printing our own boxes and everything
fantastic.
else. That's just more jobs we can create, right? So, and we get control over quality. Right? What we do is really sophisticated. When you look at the device, it doesn't look like this is going to be doing something that everybody needs, right? But and it's a razor blade model. When this is empty, you just chuck it and you put a new one on. I mean, it's so easy to do. People who are dexterously impaired can still do it. So a Parkinson's patient with tremors can change a cartridge. But what it does is something very sophisticated, and it's the only one in the world that can do it. So while everybody else is trying to reach the area of the nasal cavity that will get into the brain, nobody actually can. So for Alzheimer's, this is a device someone's going to use for 30 seconds in the morning and 30 seconds in the evening. It's 1 minute a day, and your cognitive decline can be severely slowed in. We had one study where 3 out of 4 patients actually regained cognitive abilities they lost. Our target was to arrest the disease at diagnosis. They were testing better coming out. Wow. And we worked with a really, really great principal investigator out of Harvard to do cognition in diabetics. And the serendipity of that was the control group were normals, so people without diabetes over 50. They all tested better coming out than going in. So it's just age-related memory loss. The same thing we all have to put up with. Who's the lead singer of the Rolling Stones? It's right on the tip of my tongue. Why did I walk in this room? And that now everybody could benefit from that.
Sure.
Right? Who wouldn't want to be sharper?
I could use some. I need some right now. Let's talk. You're an LSI alum. You're at Dana Point earlier this year. You're here in Europe. How is the conference experience treating you from earlier this year to now?
The Dana Point meeting was our first exploration into how the Reg A community works and operates and all of that. We learned a lot there. Scott puts on a top-notch show, and it was a real eye-opener for us. So we learned a lot there. With that experience, we were able to better fine-tune what we're presenting here, and we got overwhelming response in meeting acceptances. So we've been very busy, and the meetings have all been, they've been very candid. We love that. You're too early, you're too late. That's okay.
Yeah.
If we're too early, then eventually we're going to be right in your wheelhouse. So let's meet and chat about it now.
Yeah.
But we're a phase 3 ready company, so we're rarely too late. But if that particular investor only invests in high volume manufacturing for med tech, then we're too early. But if it's a private equity group that does startups, we're too late. We're too far along, and their $10 million isn't going to solve our problem. So we need to engage with as many people as possible, and this has been exactly that. We get to talk to the people that we want to talk to, and now we know where to go from here, and we're learning more about reaching out to the Main Street investor as well.
Mark, tell me about strategic partnerships. Who are you willing to work with?
Great question. We're willing to work with, there's really not a group out there that is outside of our umbrella. Right, we can keep people dry in a lot of ways. So there's generic pharma, specialty pharma, mid-sized pharma, and then there's big pharma. But they're all doing things that our technology platform is good for. So we want to partner with them, and there's too much to do for us to do it all, and we want to be able to engage with all of them. And so when you slide across to private equity and venture capital and hedge funds, those are great, and we want to play with them, and we can. But the Reg A Plus is also a group we want to play with. So when you're talking about strategic partners, if you're doing pharmaceuticals, we want to be on your radar, right? We want you to make that phone call. If you're thinking about doing infusions, we're begging you, please just stop. We're 3,000% better.
Try something new.
Yeah, historically, and this is something the business world has recognized for a long time, paradigm shifts come from outside the industry, and that's who we are. We weren't in the medical device industry. We were developing technologies that were going to help chronic sinusitis, because that's what I suffer from. It's the only reason it exists now. If I didn't have chronic sinusitis, we wouldn't have built it. So, we want to be all things to all people, but we cast a pretty wide net.
Well, Marc, thank you so much for stopping by. It was a pleasure getting to hear about what you guys are working on right now.
Thank you so much, Nick. It's great to be here.
Yeah.